Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. So big piece of news this time out, we have preview pages for Beasts of the Four Nations at long last. We were obviously waiting ages for this book to be re-announced, then they re-announced it, and there was basically no additional new information compared to what we knew from years ago. Now we finally, after years, know the kind of style of book that this is actually going to be. We've always known it was going to be some sort of an art book crossed with an encyclopedia of sorts, but we never knew exactly like how much detail is there actually going to be, what way is the text going to be done, what way are they going to approach doing the art. Is it going to be straight up like fact file style, in-universe artifact? We get those kind of reveals here, even if there's still some big questions, I suppose, heading into the release of the book in September. I will highlight Dark Horse's tweet here just to highlight that John O'Brien is kind of highlighted here as the writer for this book in collaboration with Mike and Brian, of course, but I am assuming it's mainly John O'Brien here, of course. So let's get into it here. Nerdist are the ones who have the exclusive on this. That said, the preview pages immediately went up on Edelweiss, so they got an exclusive by like a couple of hours, it seems. But yeah, a lot of this is just, going through the basics, describing what the book is if you don't actually know what it is. We already, of course, know what it is, so let's get into this detail here. Adding to the fun, this book is largely narrated by Aang and told from his point of view, although there are some interjections from other characters throughout. This is a weird detail to me, because why does the book need to be narrated by anyone? Why can't it just be an encyclopedia that has nice art? Why are you trying to turn this into like a in-universe artifact, like Aang journal thing about the animals? That just feels really odd, especially because the book is called Beasts of the Four Nations, Creatures from Avatar and Legend of Korra. Yet if Aang is going to be here for most of the book, and from the preview pages, we are not specifically told that Korra characters narrate the relevant Korra animals. So I don't really know how that's exactly going to work. That's a weird choice, because that changes, in a way, the era, like how certain things can be talked about. And I think straight away with the first preview pages about the dragon here, you can see that the choice adversely affects the book in my mind. So I think this is a somewhat questionable choice here, to have in-character writing about animals be the way they do this, rather than just details about animals written as like an encyclopedia, or a brand new character who is an animal expert within the world of Avatar that we don't know about, writing about the animal, where we're not really familiar with who this character is, so his focus is on the animals or something like that. That might have been a little bit better. But anyway, there's that, and then we'll get into some of the presentation stuff as we go kind of through this as well. So they say they have 6 preview pages, but they have 7 pages pretty clearly. They have the page about dragons, 2 pages on the dragons, a page on the aardvark sloths, 2 pages on the dragon hawks, 1 page on Komodo rhinos, and 1 page on croco cats. So we'll get to that in a second, going through the pages. I just want to highlight from the article the last kind of couple bits to note. They did get a quote from Mike DiMartino saying, "Have you always wondered what a hog monkey eats, if a turtle duck can fly, and what to do in the event of a platypus bear attack? Now you can finally find out. This book is chock full of fun facts and beautiful art for fans who love the Avatar world and its creatures." So cool that they got a comment there. Not that there's too much to say about that. I'm wondering, is that maybe from a foreword or something like that, or was it just a PR response to them getting this news? Not really sure. And then just to quickly go over the core details about this book. This is the cover of the book if you haven't seen it yet. There is going to be, I guess, a digital release of this, a hardcover edition of this on its own, as well as the final deluxe edition is going to be Beasts of the Four Nations. So this will go with the deluxe version of the Avatar art book and the 4 Korra art books. This will be deluxe number 6 to finish the set, finish the spine image. Really nice. September 23rd and 24th is the release date for this book. Bookstores and comic stores are the two separate dates. 40 for the standard edition. Deluxe is 80. Not sure what the digital pricing is going to be until we actually get that, of course. But yeah, let's get into the preview pages. So the first two are for the dragons. Now, let's just take a look at the way the book is laid out a little bit here. So straight away you can see, written in a style, just the layout, that kind of gives it the impression that it's like a journal, that the art is literally almost like sketched into this in-universe book, rather than it just being a piece of art kind of printed in a kind of out-of-universe book like we were maybe expecting. They do credit the artists down below, so you can see these two pieces of art are both by Julia Schleicher. So that's cool. Credit to all the artists is nice in an art book. On the top of the page here, you can see it just has the title of the book, Beasts of the Four Nations, Creatures from Avatar and Korra. On the right page, when you open it up, you have what section of the book it's in. This one for the dragons is in wild animals. We'll see on one of the other pages that it says domesticated animals, highlighting that at the very least there are two sections of the book. What seems to be the case, because this is page 112 and 113. This is from later on in the book, because I think we know the book has 128 pages from listings, as far as we're aware. So it looks like domesticated animals will be up first, followed by wild animals for like the second half of the book. So bit of a layout kind of situation there. But also we have to bring up the idea of where's the color? Where is the color? Now, if you look at some of the other pages, there is color pieces of art. But I think it's kind of an interesting decision that as we go through these pages, you'll see that it's kind of half and half, and almost leaning more towards there's like more pieces of art that's in this sort of sketch for the journal style, rather than actual full color pieces of art, which I just think is a very odd decision for effectively an art book. And I am beginning to feel that it was maybe a bad choice to maybe try and make this book an in-universe type thing, and not just like make it an out-of-universe art book that is also a kind of fact file encyclopedia type thing. But let's kind of go through this here. I'm not going to read out the whole thing, especially this one, because there's not much to it, which I think is part of the disappointment here. Of course, it's narrated by Aang. There's a rumor going around that I met two dragons, and this joke is just, it continues throughout this writing like 4 or 5 times, just in these 2 pages, that Aang is not really talking too much about dragons other than denying that he met Ran and Shaw. Like, it's literally just don't tell anyone over and over again. And it's really odd and weird in a book that's meant to be giving you details about the dragons. And again, I get referencing the main episode we see dragons in, but it's an encyclopedia where you have the ability to draw information from elsewhere. So it's weird that they make the choice to just ground the full dragon section just in that one episode, and mostly in Aang's experience. The middle section here has a little bit of information. Dragons have a fascinating and tragic history. They've always been sacred to serious firebending practitioners, and several avatars were lucky enough to have them as familiars. That's probably the most interesting detail on the whole 2 pages, is that more than Roku, avatars beyond Roku have had dragons in the past. That's cool to know. Not that we have any specifics here, but cool detail. Not all humans were as respectful, though. The process of hunting dragons, of course, referencing the Sozin thing, without, in this case, actually saying Sozin. But anyway, the dragon population got so low that people stopped seeing them in the wild, and to this day, most people think they are extinct. That's fine, but obviously the idea is there. It's implied that they're not extinct because of Ran and Shaw and likely others, of course, but they don't really go into that. They don't seem to address Druk or anything like that, because again, this seems like it's written by Aang, probably post-series circa Imbalance, rather than Aang well into the future, more aware of the situation with dragons into the future. Whereas this might be a different situation if this section was written by, say, Zuko in the Korra era, where Zuko has his own dragon and could talk about that, plus Ran and Shaw. That's where some of the character choices comes into play, and that I think Aang's unfortunately the wrong character to talk about this, even though he had a big encounter with dragons. And then, yeah, the whole section over here is basically about the same thing. They do say they're not the most aggressive creatures, but they are intimidating, and that's it. It's just continuing to make the joke. Even this little kind of piece of text here, dragons based on ancient paintings and drawings, and definitely not on the author's first-hand experience. Bit odd. Also, font color here is not great as well. Just for an art book where presentation is key, there's some... that's a little bit kind of questionable, ultimately. Now, I have to assume, because the dragon is such a notable Avatar animal, I'm guessing there probably is pages after this that also cover dragons. My guess is based on the Dragonhawk page, where you can see they do have the standard thing followed by a full color piece of art. I'd be kind of shocked if there wasn't a full page or double page spread of a really nice piece of art of dragons. That would be such a missed opportunity if they do that. So I'm not going to be like, oh, they only covered the dragons like this. There's probably pages after this that are also about the dragons as well. But yeah, I would say so far, pretty disappointing, both in terms of text, and while I really think the art is very nice, the decision to have 2 dragon pieces of art not in color is odd to me. And again, I would question the core conceit of the book going in this direction, making the kind of visual presentation like this. But then on the Aardvark Sloth page, you can see that they're fine with having a color piece of art on the more kind of journal style pages. This one, you can see it doesn't tell us what section it's from, but you can see it's from page 78, and we basically know it is a wild animal. So it probably is split half and half down the middle, in terms of wild versus domesticated animals, but we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, Aardvark Sloth. And again, it's a very small one here because it's not a hugely significant animal. You know, and again, it's Aang just talking about the firebending masters. Just that, hey, this one freed me from a trap because it likes the goo that the ancient sun warriors use as traps. They eat other stuff elsewhere, I guess, is the implication here, but my experience is that this happened. And again, this should be ancient sun warriors traps, the ancient sun warrior goo, because it's not really a discussion on the animal itself, really, for the most part, other than it has a tongue, really. Aardvark Sloth probably hunting for disgusting slime, and it's just, yeah, like, that's what you're doing in your kind of Avatar animal detailed encyclopedia thing, is that you have an entire entry about an animal, literally just that it licks goo. That's the only thing that's of significance about it. And again, I'm assuming there's only one page for the Aardvark Sloth, but we have to wait and see. Art is nice. You can see art by Kathy Lee. Next, we have a 2-page spread here for the Dragonhawk. So we have one more in the journal style, and then an actual full color piece of art on one page, which is nice to see. Art here is by Julia Schleicher again, and for both of them as well, so even the color one. So that's interesting. Dragon hawks are also known as messenger hawks due to their reputation as reliable long-distance couriers. And look, I get it with these, they are the messenger hawks, so that's going to be a big factor in what is discussed, but it kind of really is the only thing. Aang makes a comment at the start about how they're not really dragons, so why are they called that? I guess it's just Fire Nation stuff. They can fly long distances, a well-trained one can make the trip from Fire Nation to Ba Sing Se in a single night, and then there's a joke about they don't get distracted like Aang gets distracted, and it's like, okay, unfortunately, Aang, I know you like animals a lot. I don't think your detailed writings about animals is quite what we really want. And Aang's my favourite character, to be really clear. I think he's not the right character to use as the main narrator for a book like this. Komodo Rhino, a very similar situation. Again, it doesn't say what section it's from, but as you can see at the bottom here, it's page 34. Just to go back a bit, 78 for the Aardvark Sloth. This is page 14 and 15 for the Dragonhawk. So very early on in the book, I guess it's in the domesticated animal section. Komodo Rhino about 20 pages later, which alphabetically maybe sort of makes sense, but you'll see in a second why that maybe isn't the case. But anyway, Komodo Rhino, we get a not in color piece of art here, art by Seung-yoon Ha. Boy, when you've been chased by as many of these things as I have, it's a little hard to be unbiased, but I'll do my best to give you the facts. They're the standard mount of the Fire Nation troops, and for good reason. Fierce and strong, completely immune to physical attacks because of their thick skin. So tough it can withstand any blades. Spears and swords break on their backs and make the animal angrier. Again, obvious from the show, no further detail. Like, to me, with this animal, there's a very clear sense of, historically, when did the Fire Nation military start using these animals? Where are they originally from? How did they come to be used in the Fire Nation military? Are there wild ones in addition to their use in the Fire Nation military? If so, where are they from? Those are the questions I have, rather than Aang saying the most obvious stuff imaginable because he encountered Komodo rhinos before. Like, I think too much of this is leaning way too much into, oh, this animal was in this episode, so let's base the entire fact file around that, rather than, no, this animal was in this episode, but let's remove this animal from that episode, fill in details about this animal, and put that in the book. That, like, they're two separate things, and I think they're not quite doing that here. Last one here, Crococat, and you can see here, finally we get the right page of the book, Domesticated Animals, and this is page 21. So you can see here straight away, okay, 21, that's 7 pages after the Dragonhawk. So DH, Fire Nation animal, very early on in the book, and then a few pages later we get Crococat, Earth Kingdom animal. So is that the way they're doing it? But then it's like, no, the Crococat is before the Komodo Rhino. So I don't really know what exactly the order is for this. It'll be fascinating to see if there is any sense of order. But anyway, Crococat. So we get a full color piece of art and a kind of journal kind of sketch thing. Art by Kathy Le, behind my video. Don't get this confused with the cat gator, of course. Very different animals. They don't live in the swamp. They're more like actual cats, is kind of what is being said here. Instead of fins, they've got fur on their back, and they produce milk for their babies, which we saw in the comic that features the Pebble. They're not all purrs and cuddles. If you make a Crococat mad, it'll turn ferocious, so be careful when brushing its scales. And then we do get our first insert from another character here with the Boulder. The Boulder can neither confirm nor deny that he has a pet Crococat named the Pebble, who he loves very much. That is in fact true from a comic from Team Avatar Tales. We meet the Pebble in. So that's cool and all. I actually really like this piece of art. It's really nice to get a kind of very clean piece of art of the Crococat. But yeah, that's the preview. And I'm glad that we had this. Like, I'm still going to get the book. Like, I'm still excited for the book. I would just say what the preview has done is that it's taken it from, this book has the potential to be amazing, to, oh, they're doing it this way. It's still going to be exciting to see all the different pieces of art, and there will be some details that are interesting. And especially if the book actually does feature quite a few different characters and not just Aang with a few references, it could be much better by the time we actually get the book. But I would definitely want stuff like, say, Polar Bear Dog, which is going to be in the book because Polar Bear Dog is on the cover. You have to have Korra do that page. And if you don't, what's Aang going to talk about with the Polar Bear Dog? You know, Bolin has to be the one to do the Pabu page, surely, you know, that sort of thing. There are some spirits that they're going to be doing in the book, and some of those would make more sense to be done by Korra or maybe Janora. So there's also that kind of aspect to this as well, where, you know, I was excited going into this book for certain things about, like, you know, the entries that we were going to get for, say, like the dragons, the badger moles, the lion turtle. But now I'm kind of like, Oh no. Based on the way Aang talked about the dragons, I'm assuming he's going to talk about the line turtle in basically the same way, even though the line turtle page probably has the most potential to be maybe the most interesting one in the book, depending on what they do with it. So I still have some hope, but this has definitely brought it down to earth in terms of it actually sets expectations maybe a little bit better to not expect a crazy amount of like brand new information. So a little bit unfortunate there, but definitely in the comments on just these preview pages, let me know what your thoughts are on just the style that they're doing here. How do you feel about the delivery of the text through the characters, mainly Aang? And then how do you feel about the art presentation of a lot of it being kind of journal sketches within the text, with then kind of like inserts of like full-on color pieces? What are your thoughts there? I just think they're both odd choices that I think make the book maybe less than what it could be, but I'm still excited to finally get it after all this time. So yeah, it's out in September. I'll be reviewing it when it comes out, and depending on what it is, it might be a substantial review. There might actually be a need for multiple videos. We'll see how that goes. We do have some other pieces of news that I want to talk about. I forget if I covered this in the video or not. I definitely posted about it on social media. I might have quickly thrown it in somewhere in the video. I'll just mention it again. I Am Sokka has been announced. So this is going to be the 5th I Am book. It's going to be out January 6th. Sokka, of course, is the focus character, and we've already had Aang, Zuko, Katara, and Toph. So this completes the kind of main Team Avatar set. This is mostly, I think, interesting from the perspective of what did they do after this? Are they done with these 5? Do they do Suki to complete the full Team Avatar? Do they swap over and do like Iroh or like Azula? Maybe they'd be, I think, the most obvious main characters, but they maybe don't fit the style of book. Might they swap over and do Korra? That would be very interesting, but we just don't know. But either way, 2026 book for I Am Sokka. That will be fun. I'll do a video when it comes out. Then we go to the Kickstarter here with the, like I think I mentioned in my previous video, they were going to be doing this update about Alex Monique and her art, and they have put that up a few days ago. So yeah, they just introduced Alex Monique. Obviously, we're very familiar with her work on the Mako comic. She's done stuff on the core book, Patterns in Time, of course, and other stuff as well. She's very excited for it, as you can see here. She's posted separately on social media, confirming stuff like, yeah, Ryo-shan is her design and stuff like that. And they do highlight that Ryo-shan is in part 4, Wings of Destiny, that specific part 1 of the books. So that's kind of interesting. Here's a new character designed by Alex Monique, Ma, Fire Nation inventor, brilliant young protege of Nin Che, Fire Nation inventor. They talk about the uniform for the Unity. That, like, because it's fundamentally happening because of someone from the Water Tribe, it should maybe have a bit of that, but not be entirely that. So it's meant to be a collaboration of all 4 nations together in the uniform. So that will be a kind of interesting one, maybe if we get a full look at the full Unity uniform. But yeah, Fire Nation Inventor, this makes sense. Part of the Unity is to spread kind of scientific knowledge and stuff like that. So inventors being on board makes complete sense. And I'm guessing we'll get more details on this character. This is not a legend NPC, probably like a master or kind of a major NPC that will be explained as part of one of the adventures, is my guess. Then Minister Lanzig, who we've already seen already, of course, and they highlight that he is a central character in the first adventure as things actually get started. And again, he's about fighting corruption. Then the big one, Teak. This is the design for Teak. I think this was met with a lot of positivity when I posted about it. People seem to like this. She's the patron of the Unity's Grand Tour. This is the person making this all happen. Richest person in the South, isn't shy about throwing her money around, but is fundamentally behind this thing that is about doing the the good thing for the world, trying to bring people together while everyone's trying to sabotage it. Will be interesting to get more details on this in terms of, you know, how much of this is her just actually doing something good with her money, and then how much of this is she trying to get something out of this. Obviously she'll have a legend NPC bio that I guess will go into a little bit more detail about, like, I guess what she hopes to get out of it in some way. Like, is there a goal beyond just getting even more money, or is there something she's hoping to find along the way? So yeah, really cool here. She obviously flaunts her money, so it's a water tribe get up with a lot of flair to it, which we don't typically see too much. Like, even like the southern chief, northern chief, like someone even like an Unalaq doesn't wear much like jewelry or anything like that. So you've got the fancy robes plus all this kind of crazy jewelry. I think it's a very cool look for the character, and she's a waterbender apparently as well. So that's kind of fun. So yeah, Unity is her ship. She'll need your help to keep national infighting storms, pirates, and sea monsters from tearing it down. And then we'll quickly just go into some of the detail again to highlight. So part 4, this is the one that Ryoshon is going to be involved in. So this is actually the one with the dragon, trying to prevent a dragon from being killed, and Ryoshon is involved in that, which I think makes sense that Ryoshon will be involved in a more kind of Fire Nation focused thing. That could be interesting. I wonder, does this draw Sozin's attention or something like that potentially, because the hunting dragons for kind of honor and power is a Sozin thing, and she's maybe trying to stop that. That's interesting. But yeah, here's some of the other characters who I guess we will see art of in the same way we got art for Ma. Would be weird to get one for a random inventor, but not the leader of the different delegations. But that's the details there. And yeah, Teak, you can see here, she does have the technique that she can have, Blinding Mist, which I have to assume means that she is a waterbender. And I would love to know the details surrounding that in terms of, like, is she a skilled waterbender? Like, is she surprisingly skillful? She just doesn't fight that often. Is she a full-on master? Or does she just happen to know one or two moves? That could be quite interesting to just get some details on. But yeah, otherwise that's been the video. We continue to wait for some other things to happen when it comes to, like, you know, mainly I think we're waiting for over the next couple of weeks the schedule for San Diego Comic-Con to go up. Probably hear about Avatar Magic the Gathering at some point soon. Also, probably any day now within the next couple of weeks, some sort of a preview excerpt for City of Echoes probably will be going live at some point if it matches the previous books. I assume it would have to. They'd want to get the marketing going on that. But yeah, we're just in a slightly slow point, but things I think are probably going to pick up towards the end of the month because Comic-Con's next month and a lot of book stuff is going to happen. And once we're into the novels, like, the amount of coverage I'm going to be doing on City of Echoes will lead us directly into a lot of the other stuff with Awakening of Roku later on in the year, Lighted Up later on in the year, plus Beasts of the Four Nations to cover in September as well. So stuff's happening. We just have a little bit more waiting to do. But yeah, in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on the Beasts of the Four Nations preview pages and just the general approach now that we know what it's about. What are your thoughts there? I am Sokka, if I hadn't already covered it in a video, thoughts there. And then, yeah, some new art for Voyage of the Unity here from Alex Monick. So let me know what your thoughts are there. So yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.